Captain Lee Hyun floated in the command chair of the Taeguk, watching the stars bend and twist through the observation window. The quantum drive hummed quietly beneath his feet, pushing the ship through dimensions that other species couldn't even detect. 3 years of deep space missions, and the silence still bothered him. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Park Mina from her station. She was the ship's science officer, young but sharp. Her fingers danced across the controls as data streamed across her screens. "Multiple signal sources, but they're not coming from any known human colonies." Hyun pushed himself over to her station. The Taeguk was one of humanity's newest stealth ships, designed to slip between normal space and quantum dimensions without leaving any trace. For the past 50 years, humans had been quietly spreading across 17 star systems, always careful to stay hidden from whatever else might be out there. "What kind of signals?" Hyun asked. "Communication channels, emergency broadcasts, military codes." Mina's face grew pale as she listened through her headset. "Captain, I think we need to hear this." She routed the audio to the main speakers. The bridge fell silent as alien voices filled the air. The translation software worked quickly, turning the strange languages into Korean. "This is Coalition Fleet 7. We've lost 3 destroyers to hegemony forces. Requesting immediate backup at Grid 77 Alpha. Hegemony command to all units. Push forward on the Eastern Front. Show no mercy to Coalition scum. Medical. Ship healing wing requesting safe passage. We have wounded from both sides. Please, we just want to help." The messages went on and on. Battle reports, casualty lists, desperate calls for help. Hyun felt his stomach twist as he listened. A war was raging out there, and it sounded massive. "How long has this been going on?" he asked. Mina checked her instruments. "Based on the signal timestamps, at least 3 years. Maybe longer." Engineer Choi Ji-won looked up from his station. "Captain, if there's been a war going on for 3 years, why didn't anyone contact Earth? Why didn't we know about it?" That was the question that made Hyun's blood run cold. Humanity had colonies in 17 systems. They had long-range sensors, communication networks, exploration ships. How could a galactic war be happening without them knowing? "Get me Admiral Kim," Hyun ordered. The communication took several minutes to reach Earth Command through the quantum relay. Admiral Kim Taeho's face appeared on the main screen, looking tired. He'd been running Human Deep Space Command for 10 years, always worried about the day aliens would find them. "What's your status, Captain?" Kim asked. "Sir, we've intercepted alien communications. There's a war happening out here, a big one." Kim's expression didn't change, but Hyun could see the tension in his eyes. "Show me." They transmitted the communication logs to Earth. Kim studied them quietly while his staff worked in the background. After 20 minutes, he spoke again. "Captain, we've been analyzing similar signals from other locations. This war involves dozens of species across hundreds of star systems. The scale is beyond anything we imagined." "Sir, why weren't we contacted? If this war is so big, surely someone would have reached out to us for help." Kim was quiet for a long moment. "We think we know why. Dr. Song from the Xenobiology Institute has been studying the signal patterns. Captain, show him what you found, Mina." Mina uploaded her analysis to the communication link. "Admiral, based on the star charts in these messages, the war is happening all around us. But look at this sector." She highlighted a region of space on the tactical display. It was dark, empty, with humanity's colonies sitting right in the middle. "They call it the dead sector," Kim explained. "From what we can understand, alien species think this region is uninhabitable. Something about ancient stellar radiation that should have killed any life here long ago. But that's not true," Ji-won said. "We've been living here just fine." "Exactly. Our stealth technology and our location have kept us completely hidden. To the rest of the galaxy, we simply don't exist." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They were ghosts, invisible to a galaxy tearing itself apart. "Sir, "What are your orders?" Hyun asked. Kim was quiet for several minutes. In the background, Hyun could hear voices arguing, people moving around, the sounds of a command center in crisis mode. "Captain, I'm ordering all deep space vessels to maintain stealth protocols. Do not reveal yourselves under any circumstances. We need to understand this situation better before we act." "Understood, sir." "And Captain, start gathering intelligence. I want to know everything about this war. Who's fighting, why they're fighting, and how we can stay out of it." The communication ended, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Outside the observation window, stars continued their ancient dance, unaware of the violence happening between them. "Captain," Mina said quietly, "I've been analyzing the battle reports. The casualty numbers are enormous. Entire planets have been destroyed. Billions are dead." "It's not our fight," Ji-won said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Isn't it?" Mina asked. "If we have the power to help and we choose not to, what does that make us?" Hyun stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying in a war they never asked for. Ships were burning. Families were being torn apart. Entire civilizations were at risk. And humanity, the species that prided itself on helping others, was hiding in the shadows. "Set course for the nearest battle zone," he ordered. "Stealth mode, maximum distance. We're going to watch and learn." "Sir?" Ji-won looked confused. "The Admiral said to gather intelligence. That's what we're going to do, but first, we need to see this war with our own eyes." The Taeguk shifted course, slipping through quantum dimensions toward the sounds of battle. As they traveled, more signals came through the communication array. Some were military reports, others were civilian broadcasts, and a few were simply people saying goodbye to their families. "Listen to this one," Mina said, routing a new signal to the speakers. A young voice spoke in a language the computer couldn't fully translate, but the emotion was clear. Fear, sadness, hope, the voice of someone who might not see another day. "How old do you think they are?" Hyun asked. "Young, maybe a teenager." Hyun closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his jaw was set with determination. "Continue monitoring all channels. I want to know everything about both sides of this conflict, and send a message back to Admiral Kim." "What should it say, Captain?" Hyun thought about the young voice they'd just heard, about the billions of casualties, about the war that had been raging while humanity sat in ignorant peace. Tell him we can't stay hidden forever. Tell him that sometimes the right thing to do isn't the safe thing to do. The Taeguk continued its journey toward the war zone, carrying with it the hopes and fears of a species that was about to change the course of galactic history. They didn't know it yet, but they were no longer just observers. They were humanity's first step toward ending a war that should never have started. In the distance, the first flashes of weapons fire appeared on their sensors. The war was real, and it was waiting for them. The first battle Captain Lee Hyun witnessed changed everything he thought he knew about war. The Taeguk hung in quantum space, invisible to the massive fleets tearing each other apart just a few thousand kilometers away. Hegemony dreadnoughts, each one the size of a small city, fired energy beams that could melt through solid metal in seconds. Coalition defense ships swarmed around them like angry insects, their smaller weapons chipping away at the massive hulls. "How many ships are out there?" Hyun asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lieutenant Nam Yoonji looked up from her sensor station. She was new to the crew, a communications expert who had joined them just before this mission. "Over 300, Captain, and this is just one battle." Hyun watched as a coalition frigate exploded in a ball of fire, taking its crew of 200 with it. Seconds later, a hegemony destroyer broke apart under concentrated fire, its pieces spinning away into the dark. "They're fighting like animals," Engineer Choi Ji-won said. "No mercy, no quarter given." "Look at their weapons," Dr. Park Mina added, studying the tactical display. "Primitive energy beams, chemical explosives, kinetic projectiles. They're using..." Technology that's hundreds of years behind ours. It was true. Humanity had developed quantum phase weapons that could strike targets in multiple dimensions at once. Their shields could deflect energy by shifting it into parallel space. Compared to what they were watching, human technology was like magic. "Captain, incoming message from Earth Command," Yunji reported. Admiral Kim Tae-ho appeared on the screen, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood several officers Hyun didn't recognize, including a stern-looking man with colonel's insignia. "Captain, let me introduce Colonel Yoon Seok. He's heading up a new special operations unit." Colonel Yoon stepped forward. He was older than Hyun, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. "Captain, we've been monitoring your reports. What you're witnessing is happening across the entire galaxy. Both sides are locked in a death spiral." "Sir, the technology gap is enormous," Hyun reported. "We could end this war in days if we wanted." "2. That's exactly what we're afraid of," Admiral Kim said. "If we reveal ourselves now, both sides might unite against us. Or worse, they might expect us to choose a side." Dr. Shin Woo-bin stepped into view. Hyun recognized him as the head of weapons research. "Captain, we're not going to join this war, but we might be able to end it." "How, sir?" "By making both sides think they're fighting something else entirely, something they can't understand or predict." Colonel Yoon explained the plan. It was called Operation Phantom, and it was unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. Instead of revealing themselves or choosing sides, human ships would begin striking both fleets simultaneously. The attacks would be precise, mysterious, and designed to create maximum confusion. "We want them to think they're being attacked by their own people," Yoon said. "Make the hegemony think the coalition has developed new stealth technology. Make the coalition think the hegemony is using false flag operations." "What about casualties, sir?" Hyun asked. Dr. Shin smiled grimly. "That's where we get creative. We're not going to kill anyone." Over the next several hours, Dr. Shin explained the new weapons his team had developed. Quantum disruptors that could phase enemy ships out of normal space-time for several hours, leaving crews floating helplessly until rescue arrived. Neural dampeners that would make entire crews fall asleep without any permanent damage. Reality. Anchors that prevented enemy ships from escaping to faster-than-light speeds. "The goal is to disable, not destroy," Shin explained. "We want to confuse them, not massacre them." Lieutenant Nam Yoonji raised her hand. "Sir, what about their communications? If we can get into their networks, we could really mess with their heads." Admiral Kim nodded. "That's part of the plan. Yoonji, you'll be working with our cyber warfare division. We want you to make both sides paranoid about each other." The first Phantom strike happened 3 days later. Hyun positioned the Taeguk between two battle groups that were preparing to engage each other. Coalition cruisers on one side, hegemony destroyers on the other. Both sides were charging their weapons, ready to fight to the death. "All stations ready?" Hyun asked. "Quantum disruptors, charged and targeted," Ji-won reported. "Neural dampeners online," Mina added. "Communications hack prepared," Yoonji said. "I'm ready to broadcast false orders to both fleets. Execute." The Taeguk decloaked directly between the two fleets, appearing like a ghost ship materializing from empty space. Before either side could react, quantum disruptors fired in all directions. 6 ships from each fleet suddenly phased out of normal space, their crews finding themselves floating in a strange gray dimension where nothing worked properly. Neural dampeners followed, sending invisible waves of energy toward the remaining ships. Within seconds, half the crews on both sides fell into peaceful sleep at their stations. "Now," Hyun ordered. Yoonji activated her communication hack, sending false messages to both fleets using their own command codes. Coalition ships received orders to retreat immediately, claiming that hegemony reinforcements were arriving. Hegemony ships got orders to fall back, with warnings about coalition secret weapons. The entire battle lasted less than 5 minutes. By the time confused officers tried to figure out what was happening, the Taeguk had vanished back into quantum space, leaving behind 12 disabled ships and 2 very confused fleets. Did you see their faces? Ji-won laughed as they watched the aftermath from a safe distance. They have no idea what hit them. Both fleets retreated quickly, probably to report what had happened to their commanders. Hyun could only imagine how those conversations would go. "Captain, this is just the beginning." Colonel Yoon's voice came through the communication system. "We have 15 other ships ready to begin phantom operations across the galaxy. By the time we're done, both sides will be too paranoid to keep fighting." Over the following weeks, reports began filtering in from other human ships. The Phantom strikes were working better than anyone had hoped. Hegemony and coalition forces were pulling back from major engagements, afraid of the mysterious attacks that seemed to come from nowhere. Dr. Park Mina analyzed the intercepted communications and found something interesting. "Captain, listen to this." She played a recording from a coalition commander. "We're dealing with something beyond our understanding. Ships that appear and disappear at will. Weapons that don't destroy but somehow disable everything they touch. Command thinks the hegemony has made contact with an ancient alien race." Another recording came from a hegemony officer. "The coalition has clearly developed supernatural technology. Our scientists can't explain how they're doing this. We may need to consider a strategic withdrawal." They think each other is responsible, Hyun realized. They can't imagine that a third party is involved. "Because to them, we don't exist," Mina said. "We're still in the dead sector, remember? As far as they know, no one lives here." Lieutenant Nam Eunji had been busy with psychological operations. She created false intelligence reports and leaked them to both sides, describing secret hegemony stealth programs and coalition supernatural research projects. The paranoia was spreading faster than the phantom attacks themselves. "Captain, we need to be careful," she warned. "Some of their military leaders are starting to talk about desperate measures. Chemical weapons, planet-killing devices, stuff that would make this war even worse." Hyun stared out at the stars, thinking about the young voice they'd heard in that first communication. Somewhere out there, people were still dying, families were still being torn apart, but now they were also living in fear of an enemy they couldn't see or understand. "Contact Admiral Kim," he ordered. "Tell him Operation Phantom is working, but we may need to move to the next phase sooner than planned." "What's the next phase, Captain?" Mina asked. Hyun smiled grimly. "We stop hiding and start talking. But first, we make sure both sides are ready to listen." The war was about to change in ways that no one in the galaxy could predict. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. They were becoming the shadows, and they were going to use that power to bring peace to a galaxy that had forgotten what it meant. Commander Oh Yuna studied the holographic display showing the Galactic War Zone. Red dots marked hegemony positions, blue showed coalition forces, and yellow indicated the growing number of Phantom attack sites. After 6 weeks of Operation Phantom, the pattern was clear. Both sides were falling apart. "The paranoia is spreading faster than we expected," she reported to the assembled human commanders. "Coalition forces are accusing their own allies of betrayal. Hegemony officers are being executed for suspected treason." Captain Bae Dong-hyun nodded from his position at the strategy table. His ship, the Mugonghwa, had conducted 17 Phantom strikes in the past month. They're starting to pull back from major engagements entirely. Some fleets are just sitting in defensive positions, afraid to move. Admiral Kim Tae-ho appeared on the communication screen from Earth Command. "How are our crews handling the pressure? These are dangerous missions." "Morale is high, sir," Captain Lee Hyun reported. "The crews understand what we're trying to accomplish. No human casualties so far, and we've disabled over 400 enemy vessels without killing anyone." Engineer Lim Soo-young looked up from her technical reports. "The non-lethal weapons are performing better than expected. The quantum disruptors can phase entire battleships out of normal space for up to 6 hours. The neural dampeners work on all alien species we've tested so far. What about their attempts to develop countermeasures? Admiral Kim asked. Dr. Park. Mina shook her head. They're trying, but they don't understand the basic principles behind our technology. It's like trying to build a computer when you don't know what electricity is. The truth was that humanity's quantum dimensional technology was so far beyond alien science that it might as well have been magic. Human ships could exist in multiple dimensions at once, phase through solid matter, and strike from directions that didn't exist in normal space-time. Sir, we need to talk about the psychological effects, Commander Oyuna said. Some alien species are starting to develop religious beliefs about us. She activated a recording captured from Coalition communications. The ghost ships are messengers from the ancient gods. They come to punish those who wage war against the innocent. Another recording followed from a hegemony broadcast. We are being tested by cosmic forces beyond our comprehension. Perhaps we have gone too far in our conquest. They're creating myths about us, Yuna explained. Some call us the Judgment Fleet. Others think we're ancient galactic guardians who have awakened to stop the war. Captain Bay leaned forward. Is that necessarily a bad thing? If they're afraid of us, maybe they'll stop fighting. It's more complicated than that, Lieutenant Nam Yunji said, joining the conversation from her intelligence station. Fear can make people do desperate things. Some hegemony commanders are talking about using weapons of mass destruction. If they think they're facing supernatural enemies, they might decide to destroy entire planets rather than surrender. Admiral. Kim's expression grew serious. How close are they to that point? Closer than we'd like, Yunji admitted. Intelligence suggests both sides are preparing contingency plans. Planet killers, biological weapons, things that would make this war truly horrific. Then it's time for the next phase, Admiral Kim decided. We need to demonstrate our true capabilities before they do something we can't undo. The demonstration Admiral Kim had in mind was unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. Instead of hitting military targets, they would strike at the hearts of both alliances simultaneously. Captain Lee Hyun received his orders 3 days later. Proceed to Coalition Central Command and Hegemony Supreme Fleet simultaneously. Sir, those are the most heavily defended positions in the galaxy, Hyun protested. Their capital ships, their best weapons, everything they have. Exactly, Admiral Kim replied. We need to show them that nowhere is safe, but we also need to show them that they're safe from us. Hit both command centers at the same time, disable their communication systems for exactly 1 hour, then leave without harming anyone. The mission required perfect coordination. Captain Bae Dong-yun would take the Mugunghwa to hegemony space, while Hyun hit Coalition Central Command. They would need to strike at exactly the same moment, across thousands of light years. Remember, Admiral Kim emphasized, no casualties. We're sending a message, not declaring war. The Coalition Central Command was a massive space station orbiting the planet Harmony Prime. It was protected by over 50 warships, energy shields that could stop planet-killing weapons, and sensor arrays that should have been able to detect anything approaching. Should have been. The Taeguk slipped through quantum dimensions, bypassing every defense as if they didn't exist. Hyun brought his ship to a stop directly inside the command center's main briefing room, materializing like a ghost ship in the middle of their war council. Alien officers screamed and dove for cover as the sleek human vessel appeared among them. Emergency alarms blared throughout the station. Ships outside began powering up their weapons, but they couldn't fire without destroying their own command center. Neural dampeners, minimum setting, Hyun ordered. Just put them to sleep. The invisible wave of energy swept through the station. Within minutes, every person aboard was unconscious but unharmed. Their dreams would be peaceful, and they would wake up with nothing worse than mild headaches. Communications disruption activated, Lieutenant Nam Yunji reported. All their command networks are down. At the same moment, thousands of light years. Away, Captain Bay was performing the same operation at Hegemony Supreme Fleet Headquarters. The timing was perfect. For 1 hour, both sides of the Galactic War were completely cut off from their command structures. Fleet commanders couldn't contact headquarters. Orders couldn't be transmitted. The entire war machine ground to a halt. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, the human ships vanished. The aftermath was immediate and dramatic. Both Alliance leaders woke up to find their most secure facilities had been penetrated by ghost ships that left no trace of their presence, except for sleeping crews and disabled communications. "Listen to this," Dr. Park Mina said, playing intercepted communications from the hours following the strikes. Coalition Admiral speaking. "They were inside our command center. Inside it. How is that possible?" Hegemony Supreme Leader responding, "The same thing happened to us at exactly the same time. We're dealing with forces that can strike anywhere, anytime." Coalition Admiral. "But they didn't kill anyone. They could have destroyed both our command centers, but they just put everyone to sleep." Hegemony Supreme Leader. "What kind of enemy shows such restraint? What do they want from us?" "They're starting to ask the right questions." Commander O. Yuna observed. "But they're still not ready for the answers." The Phantom strikes continued, but now they took on a different character. Instead of random attacks, human ships began targeting specific military installations that were developing new weapons. Research stations working on planet killers found their equipment mysteriously disabled. Biological weapons laboratories discovered their samples had been neutralized overnight. Engineer Lim Soo-young had developed what she called the Mercy Protocol. Instead of simply disabling ships, human vessels began towing damaged alien craft to safe zones where rescue ships could find them. Enemy and ally alike were treated the same way. "We're not just stopping their war," she explained. "We're teaching them a new way to fight. Show mercy to your enemies, protect the innocent, minimize casualties." The psychological impact was enormous. Alien crews began reporting that the ghost ships seemed to know exactly what they were thinking. Ships that were planning sneak attacks found themselves mysteriously disabled before they could act. Commanders who showed mercy to prisoners found their own ships protected from phantom strikes. "They think we can read their minds," Lieutenant Nam Yoonji laughed. "Actually, we're just monitoring their communications and predicting their behavior." But the effect was the same. Both sides began changing their tactics, trying to appear more honorable in hopes of avoiding phantom attacks. Acts of mercy increased. Civilian evacuations became more common. The rules of engagement slowly began to favor protecting innocent lives. "Sir, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy," Captain Bay reported during a command meeting. "Major battles have stopped, completely in 12 sectors. Some local commanders are arranging informal truces." "What about their leadership?" Admiral Kim asked. "Both alliance councils are calling for emergency peace talks," Commander O. Yuna reported. "They want to discuss the phantom threat and possibly form a joint task force to investigate." Admiral Kim smiled. "Perfect. That's exactly what we were hoping for." "Sir?" Hyun looked confused. "Don't you see, Captain? They're already talking to each other instead of shooting. They're cooperating to solve a problem. We've given them a common enemy to unite against." "But we're not really their enemy, Doctor," Park Mina pointed out. "No, we're not. And soon we're going to tell them that. But first, we need to make sure they're ready to listen to what we have to say." The war that had raged for 3 years was finally beginning to end, not through conquest or surrender, but through the growing realization that there were forces in the galaxy far more powerful than either alliance had imagined. Forces that chose mercy over destruction, peace over victory. Ambassador Song Mirai had never been more nervous in her life. In 30 minutes, she would become the first human to officially address the galactic community. The weight of representing her entire species pressed down on her shoulders like a physical burden. "The translation matrix is working perfectly," Dr. Park Mina assured her. "Every species in both alliances will be able to understand you clearly." They were aboard the flagship Sol, positioned in quantum space near the neutral station where emergency peace talks were being held. For the first time in 3 years, coalition and hegemony leaders were sitting in the same room, united by their fear of the phantom attacks. Admiral Kim Tai-ho appeared on the communication screen from Earth Command. "Ambassador, the entire human government is watching. No pressure, but the future of galactic civilization might depend on the next few hours." "Thank you for that comforting thought, Admiral," Song replied with a weak smile. Captain Lee Hyun checked the tactical display. "All ships are in position. The moment you give the signal, we'll execute Revelation Protocol simultaneously across 12 systems." The plan was ambitious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. At the exact moment Ambassador Song revealed herself to the peace conference, human ships would decloak at major population centers throughout both alliances. Not to attack, but simply to be seen, to prove that they existed, that they were real, and that they had been responsible for the phantom strikes all along. "Remember," Admiral Kim said, "we're not revealing ourselves as conquerors. We're revealing ourselves as neighbors who got tired of watching our house burn down." Song took a deep breath and activated her personal communicator. "All stations, this is Ambassador Song. Begin Revelation Protocol in 3 minutes." On the neutral station, coalition and hegemony leaders continued their heated debate about the phantom threat. They had been arguing for hours about whether to combine their fleets, share intelligence, or develop new weapons together. "The ghost ships have technology beyond anything we understand," Coalition Admiral Zephyr was saying. "They can appear anywhere, strike without warning, and disappear without a trace." "But they're not trying to conquer us, Hegemony Commander," Vex replied. "They disable our ships instead of destroying them. They put our crews to sleep instead of killing them. What kind of enemy shows such restraint?" "Maybe they're not our enemy," suggested Dr. Kalayan, a coalition scientist. "Maybe they're trying to send us a message." "What message could possibly justify this level of interference?" Admiral Zephyr demanded. That was when the lights dimmed and Ambassador Song Mireille materialized in the center of the conference room. The alien leaders fell silent, staring at the human woman who had appeared. Among them like a ghost, she was small, compared to most of the species present, dressed in simple diplomatic clothing, but her presence filled the room. "The message," Song said quietly, "is that some neighbors get tired of listening to loud fights next door." At that exact moment, 12 major population centers across the galaxy witnessed the same sight. Sleek human ships decloaking in their skies, hanging motionless above their cities like silver dreams. No weapons charged, no threats made. They simply appeared and waited. "Who are you?" Coalition Admiral Zephyr whispered. "My name is Song Mirai, and I represent the human species. We are your neighbors, and we are tired of watching you destroy yourselves." The conference room erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted questions, others activated emergency communicators, and a few simply stared in shock. Song waited patiently for the noise to die down. "You're the phantom attackers?" Commander Vex asked. "We are. But you're—" Dr. Kalayan looked confused. "You're so small. So few. Our sensors show maybe 20 ships total." 37 ships, actually," Captain Lee Hyun said, materializing beside Song as the Sol partly decloaked around the conference table. "Though size isn't everything." The alien leaders found themselves sitting inside a human starship without realizing it. The conference room was now part of the Sol's bridge, solid alien architecture seamlessly blending with human technology. "How is this possible?" Admiral Zephyr breathed. Dr. Park Mina stepped forward, her scanner showing the quantum field readings. "We exist partially in your dimension and partially in others. To us, solid matter is more of a suggestion than a barrier." "Why? Didn't you contact us before?" Commander Vex demanded. "Why the secret attacks?" "Because 3 years ago, when your war started, we tried to contact you," Song replied. Our deep space monitors picked up your early battle communications. We sent diplomatic signals to both alliances. She activated a holographic display showing transmission logs. 17 attempts to establish communication, all ignored. Your species assumed the signals were coming from an uninhabited region of space. The dead sector, Dr. Kalane realized. You live in the dead sector. We live in what you call the dead sector, yes. Turns out the ancient stellar radiation that was supposed to kill all life actually just makes it harder for your sensors to detect anything. We've been here for hundreds of years, building 17 colonies while you assumed the region was empty. The implications hit the alien leaders like a physical blow. An entire spacefaring civilization had been living right next to them, and they never knew it existed. So you started attacking us because we ignored your messages? Admiral Zephyr asked. We started intervening because you were destroying yourselves, Song corrected. Captain Hyun, show them the projections. Captain Lee Hyun activated another display showing casualty projections and resource depletion charts. At the rate you were fighting, both alliances would have collapsed within 18 months. Total population loss estimated at 47 billion beings. The numbers were staggering. Both sides had been so focused on winning that they hadn't realized they were both losing. You could have conquered us easily, Commander Vex said. Your technology is centuries ahead of ours. Why didn't you just take over? Song looked at him with genuine confusion. Why would we want to conquer you? We have 17 perfectly good star systems. We don't need more territory. Then what do you want? Dr. Kalane asked. We want you to stop killing each other, Song said simply. We want to go back to our quiet exploration missions without having to listen to emergency broadcasts and casualty reports. We want our children to grow up in a galaxy where different species solve their problems with words instead of weapons. The alien leaders exchanged glances. The concept seemed almost incomprehensible to them. You intervened in our war just to help us? Admiral Zephyr asked. We intervened because watching your war was like watching our neighbor's house burn down, Song replied. We could either ignore it and hope the fire didn't spread to our property, or we could grab a bucket and help put it out. Captain Bae Donghyun's voice came through the communication system. Ambassador, we're receiving responses from population centers across the galaxy. Most reactions are positive, but some military units are powering up weapons. Let them, Admiral. Kim's voice replied from Earth Command. They can't hurt us, and we're not going to hurt them. Song turned back to the alien leaders. We know this is a lot to process. For 3 years, you've been fighting a war that was destroying both your civilizations. Now you discover it was ended by a species you didn't know existed, using technology. You can't understand, for reasons that have nothing to do with conquest or profit. What happens now? Commander Vex asked. Now you have a choice, Song said. You can try to restart your war, knowing that we'll stop it again. You can attempt to attack us, knowing that you can't win. Or you can accept our help in building something better. Dr. Park Mina stepped forward with a datapad. We've analyzed the causes of your conflict. Resource disputes, territorial boundaries, trade disagreements, all solvable problems if you're willing to work together instead of fighting. You. Make it sound simple, Admiral Zephyr said bitterly. 3 years of war, billions dead, and you think we can just shake hands and be friends? We think you can learn to choose cooperation over destruction, Song replied. Because the alternative is watching your civilizations collapse while we stand by doing nothing. And we've already proven we won't do that. Commander Vex stood up slowly. What kind of help are you offering? Medical aid for your wounded. Technology to repair damaged worlds. Most importantly, mediation services to help you resolve the disputes that started this war in the first place. And in return, Dr. Kalane asked suspiciously, in return, you stop shooting at each other, Song said. That's it. We don't want tribute, territory, or trade agreements. We just want peace. Captain Lee Hyun received a priority message and whispered something to Song. Her expression grew serious. I'm afraid. We have a more immediate problem, she announced. Some of your military commanders are not taking this revelation well. Several extremist factions from both sides are attempting to unite against us. The main display activated, showing tactical readouts from across the galaxy. Red markers indicated ships and stations that had gone to full combat readiness, their weapons aimed at the revealed human vessels. Admiral Korath of the Hegemony Third Fleet and General Nexus of the Coalition Strike Force have declared a temporary alliance, Captain Hyun reported. They're calling us an invasion force that needs to be destroyed immediately. 6 months after first contact, Captain Lee Hyun stood on the observation deck of the Joint Research Station New Harmony, watching Coalition and Hegemony engineers work side by side on a quantum communication array. The sight still amazed him. Hard to believe they were trying to kill each other not too long ago, said Dr. Park Mina, joining him at the window. Some of them still are, Hyun replied grimly. The transition to peace hadn't been smooth, while most of both alliances had embraced. The end of the war, extremist groups on both sides continued to cause problems. Some hegemony commanders couldn't accept that their conquest had been stopped by what they saw as weak aliens and primitive humans. Some coalition leaders believed that mercy toward their former enemies was betrayal of those who had died. Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Admiral Kim, Lieutenant Nam Eunji called from the communication station. Admiral Kim Tae-ho appeared on the main screen, but his expression was troubled. Captain, we have a situation developing in the Outer Rim. Intelligence reports suggest that extremist factions from both sides are planning something big. What kind of something, sir? They're calling it the Purification Fleet. Radical hegemony. And coalition forces working together, united by their hatred of human interference in what they call the natural order of galactic politics. Dr. Park Mina frowned. How many ships are we talking about? Over 600 vessels, and they're not planning to capture or disable anything. They want to make an example of us. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The extremists had accomplished what 3 years of war couldn't. True cooperation between hegemony and coalition forces. Unfortunately, they were cooperating to destroy the people who had brought peace to the galaxy. What's their target? Hyun asked. Us. They're heading for the research station where you're based. They want to destroy New Harmony and everyone on it, human and alien alike. Captain Bae Dong-hyun's voice crackled over the communication system from his ship. Sir, if they attack the research station, they'll be killing coalition and hegemony civilians too. Surely their own people won't stand for that. That's exactly what they're counting on, Admiral Kim replied. They want to provoke a response. That will restart the war. If we defend ourselves too aggressively, they'll claim we're the real threat. If we don't defend ourselves at all, they'll destroy everything we've worked for. Ambassador Song Mirai appeared on a secondary screen from the diplomatic sector of the station. Admiral, I've been in contact with both alliance governments. They're sending their own forces to protect the station, but they won't arrive in time. How long do we have? Hyun asked. 18 hours, Admiral Kim said. The Purification Fleet will be in weapons range by then. And our response? Admiral Kim was quiet for a moment. Captain, I'm authorizing you to use any means necessary to protect the station and its inhabitants. But remember, the galaxy is watching. How we handle this will determine whether peace survives or dies. The next 18 hours were the longest of Hyun's career. New Harmony Station was home to over 50,000 beings from dozens of species, all working together on projects that would have been impossible during the war. Scientists developing new medical techniques, engineers designing quantum communication networks, teachers creating educational programs for war orphans. Captain, we're detecting the first ships of the Purification Fleet, Engineer Lim Soo-young reported. They're not responding to our communication attempts. They're not here to talk, Colonel Yoon Seok said. He had arrived the day before with a small special operations team. Intelligence suggests they plan to destroy the station quickly, then disappear before the Alliance fleets arrive. Sir, what about evacuation? Nam Yoonji asked. 50,000 people in 18 hours? Hyun shook his head. We don't have enough transport capacity, and the extremists would just shoot down any evacuation ships. Dr. Shin Woo-bin, the weapons research director, activated a tactical display. Captain, I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. Let's hear it. We let them attack the station. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at Dr. Shin as if he had lost his mind. Explain, Hyun said carefully. The station is built using both human and alien technology. If we modify the quantum field generators, we can phase the entire structure into parallel dimensions. The extremist fleet will attack what appears to be the station, but they'll actually be shooting at empty space. What about the people inside? They'll be safe in the dimensional pocket. From their perspective, nothing will happen. From the outside, it will look like the station was completely destroyed. And then? Dr. Shin smiled grimly. Then we let the galaxy see what happens when someone actually threatens human civilians. The plan was risky, but it was their best option. Over the next 16 hours, human engineers worked frantically to modify the station's systems while alien scientists helped evacuate non-essential personnel to the station's core sections. Captain, the purification fleet is dropping out of faster-than-light travel, Lim Soo-young reported. 637 ships, all weapons charged. Are the modifications complete? Yes, sir. Ready to phase the station on your command. Hyun opened a communication channel to the approaching fleet. This is Captain Lee Hyun of the Human Deep Space Command. You are approaching a civilian research facility. Turn back immediately. The response came from Admiral Korath, the extremist. Leader. Humans, your interference in galactic affairs ends today. Surrender now, and we might allow some of your people to live as prisoners. I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Hyun replied. Last warning. Turn back. Attack! Destroy the station and everyone on it! The purification fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and plasma torpedoes filled space, all converging on New Harmony Station. Now! Hyun ordered. Dr. Shin activated the dimensional phase generators. The station flickered and vanished, leaving the extremist weapons to strike empty space. From their perspective, they had just vaporized 50,000 innocent civilians. Phase. One complete, Dr. Shin reported. The station and everyone on it is safe in dimensional pocket space. Now comes the hard part, Hyun said. Colonel Yoon, are your teams ready? Ready, Captain. Let's show them what happens when someone threatens our people. What happened next would be remembered in galactic history as the Hour of Judgment. Human. Ships appeared throughout the purification fleet. Not the usual phantom strikes, but something far more impressive. The Seoul, Taeguk, Mugunghwa, and 15 other vessels decloaked simultaneously, surrounded by energy fields that made them look like angels of vengeance, but instead of attacking, they simply stopped everything. Quantum disruptors fired at maximum power, phasing every extremist ship out of normal space-time simultaneously. 637 vessels found themselves floating in the strange gray dimension where human technology reigned supreme. This is Captain Lee Hyun. His voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. You came here to destroy a research station full of civilians. You succeeded. 50,000 innocent people are dead because of your actions. The lie was necessary. The extremist crews needed to believe they had crossed the ultimate line. Now you face the consequences. What followed wasn't violence or revenge. It was something far more devastating. Justice. Human boarding parties phased through the hulls of every extremist ship. They didn't come as conquerors, but as judges. Each crew member was individually evaluated using quantum brain scanners that could detect their true motivations and intentions. Those who had joined the extremist fleet out of genuine belief that they were protecting their people were released with their memories of human technology wiped. They found themselves floating in escape pods near their home worlds, with no clear memory of how they got there. Those who had joined out of bloodlust, racism, or desire for personal power faced a different fate. They were taken to a special, dimensional prison, where they would spend the rest of their lives in comfortable isolation, unable to harm anyone ever again. "We're not executioners," Captain Hyun explained to Admiral Korath as the extremist leader was led away. "But we won't let you restart a war that killed billions of innocent people." When it was over, New Harmony Station phased back into normal space, completely intact. The 50,000 civilians inside had no idea that they had just been destroyed and avenged in one of the most elaborate deceptions in galactic history. The reaction from both alliances was immediate and overwhelming. Coalition and hegemony fleets arrived to find no battle, no wreckage, just human ships calmly maintaining station around the research facility. "What happened to the Purification Fleet?" asked Coalition Admiral Zephyr. "They learned that threatening human civilians has consequences," Ambassador Song replied diplomatically. "The extremist leaders have been removed from power. Their followers have been returned to their homes. The threat is over." Just like that? Just like that. 5 years later, Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Unity, watching a mixed crew of humans, coalition species, and former hegemony members work together as they prepared to jump to an unexplored region of the galaxy. The war was truly over now. Both alliances had reformed into the Galactic Cooperative, with humans serving as advisors and mediators.